Jakob Johnson is een Duitse fullback voor de Las Vegas Raiders. De in Stuttgart geboren Johnson speelde college in Tennessee en belandde via het International Player Pathway Program in de kleedkamer bij Tom Brady en Bill Belichik in de New England Patriots. Na 3 seizoenen in Boston trok hij dus naar de Raiders, het favoriete team van mezelf. En ik slaagde erin om, na toch wel een behoorlijke tijd, Johnson te strikken voor een interview. Johnson bleek een uitstekende ambassadeur voor de sport en bleef bijna een uur aan de lijn hangen voor een interview over zijn avontuur. Hij bracht enkele heerlijke anekdotes en stukjes levensadvies mee voor iedereen. Hij nodigde de AFCB en de Belgische voetbalcommunity zelfs uit voor een avondje uit. Welcome, Jacob. Thank you for doing this. It's an honor to finally get an NFL player on the team on the AFCB podcast. That's the first. We're in episode 95, I think now. So
right.
that's a good thing to have on the first 100. So thank you for doing this.
You got it. No worries, man. Always glad to be the first.
Yeah. Always fun to talk to someone who knows so much. First of all, how are you? I think you're in LA now, right?
I'm good. I'm in Vegas. So
you're back in.
I'm in Vegas. Got here like 3.5 weeks ago.
Okay.
We're right now in the beginning of the off-season program here, and got about, I think, another 5 weeks or so to go until the summer break.
Yeah, you already went through like the voluntary minicamp and stuff like that for the Raiders, right?
So we had one mini camp already because if you're a team that has a new head coach, you get 2 mini camps. So we got one mini camp done. The second mini camp will be like sometime in June, I think. And then after that, we have the summer break until training camp.
Oh, okay. So you can still enjoy your time a little bit. How is the move been from going to New England to now Las Vegas? That's been I think you signed March 17th.
Yeah. I mean, it's been different. I did a kids camp in Germany. I think it was on April 6th, and then sometime around April 10th. I think April 10th was the camp in Germany. Straight after the camp, I flew out here to Vegas to be here for the first day of the off-season program, and been here ever since, man. It's definitely different. The weather is a lot different, right? This is a very, very different city than kind of Boston, where I was at before. But I'm excited to be here, man. The new teammates and new coaching staff has been great. So yeah, just happy to be here.
Yeah, and I showed you the helmet right before we started.
Yeah.
People that are aware of this podcast, that listen to this podcast, know I'm a Raiders fan. I'm part of Raider Nation. Did they already reach out to you?
Yeah, Raider Nation has definitely made their impact felt all across my social media. I see a lot of black and silver now, and that's just awesome. It's great to see how international the fan base is too, right? Like, I mean, you're in Belgium, there's Raider Nation in Germany, in Mexico, in Canada, all over the United States. So it's definitely exciting to be part of such a historic franchise with such a huge fan base.
Yeah, it's like you went from one storied franchise basically to another, and
because
of being in New England, and now you chose the right spots to be in international as well, I think.
Yeah, as a fan, dude, as a fan of football, that I couldn't have asked for a better situation.
Yeah, you talked about it a little bit in terms of having a new head coach in Las Vegas. For you, it's not really a new head coach. Josh McDaniels, you know him from New England. He was the offensive coordinator there for a very long time. I can imagine that was the biggest reason for you signing with the Raiders, or were there a couple other circumstances that were important to go in there?
Oh man, I mean, my agent handled most of that, but obviously once that connection was made, it felt comfortable, and it only felt natural for me to come out here. Really excited to go to work with Coach McDaniels this year, and just excited to keep this thing going.
Yeah. Can you talk us a little bit about him as a coach, how he is? Because I think there's like a certain aura about him. It might be negative, it might be positive. You're already laughing. I think you know what, what I'm talking about in certain degree.
Yeah,
But like,
for me, man.
yeah,
Listen, I'll tell it to you what I experienced, man. You know, Coach McDaniels is just one of these people who sees football on a whole different plane, right? Like, I obviously do my best to get my football IQ up there, but he's just one of these people who thinks about football, like on a whole nother
yeah,
level. Like, he has it down to a science. So just being around that man is it's a blessing for me, because I'm still a student of the game. I still try to learn as much as I can, and try to pick up the ways that he sees the game being played. And I'm really excited to get the opportunity to be here and learn some more this year.
yeah. I think playing the position that you do, I think was an important part of what they or what Josh McDaniels has done for a long time in New England. The fullback position. I've read somewhere you did an interview a couple of weeks ago when you moved to the Raiders, that New England might change their stance on, or not really stance, but they might not use a position on the roster for a fullback.
Mhm.
You being a fullback, there's not many teams that have a roster spot for a fullback.
Mhm.
How important for you is that position still? Because it's like it's changing. I'm not saying it's going away, but
Yeah.
the position is changing. I think a little bit.
I mean, that's one thing. That's one thing about the NFL, right? Things are always changing, right?
Yeah,
The way positions are played is changing. Which positions might be in the spotlight is changing. So it's always a dynamic situation. I'm sure there are a lot of fullbacks around the league who do great work, and there's a lot of coaches who believe in using a fullback. And as long as that's a part of the game, I'll find a way to be a part of that, and yeah, try to make the fullbacks that came before us, that
yeah,
paved the
yeah,
way for us, proud. um but as far as, obviously, like, nothing stays the same in football, right? It's always changing, and that's why every year you have to go out there and kind of prove your worth again, and fight for a spot, and fight for the relevance of yourself and your position. So it's just a part of the game.
yeah. I think, especially it's not easy to be a fullback in the league because it's like a limited amount of players. We talked about it in terms of like international players. There's not a lot of international players in the league.
Yeah.
So maybe we can start with how he ended up playing football. Like how did that
Oh,
came
man.
about playing American football? Because we call it now football. We always
Yeah.
thought about football, but it's American football in Europe. How did you start playing in Stuttgart? I think it was in Germany that you started playing.
Yeah. So I mean, I was kind of driven to sport, because I would always get in trouble in school. So they always made sure to max me out with sport. I did all kinds of things, man. I played football, like soccer, regular football, right? Played basketball, swimming, wrestling. I did all kinds of stuff, and all these sports never really seemed to power me out all the way. Um, they also, some of them didn't really have uniforms that would fit me for my age group, so I always didn't really feel like I felt like I fit in. And then when I went to my first football practice, I just came home, I was tired, I was just happy, and just kind of stuck with it from there. Just fell in love with the sport, and always looked for opportunities. Once I started getting good at it, right? Like, okay, where can I go? Where can I play? I made it on the youth national team roster, one of my last years in Germany, and um, got some American players that we had at our team in Stuttgart. Just kind of were like, hey, you might be good enough to play in the States. And then from there on, just started formulating a plan, researching by myself on the internet. How can I get noticed? How can I get a scholarship? Ended up playing high school for 6 months in Florida, and got recruited by the University of Tennessee from there. And that's how I got my start.
Yeah, about that, I read somewhere you kept an Excel spreadsheet of
Yeah,
like coaches
yeah,
and scouts to mail. Is that true? Is that
yeah.
true
So I
story
had
about
a
you?
yeah, I had a whole word document. I kind of worked on it during the winter break before I graduated, and I just compiled all the I would go through all the FBS. So that's the big Division One schools. It's like 124 of those. I would go to each one of their homepages, search through the staff directory, and kind of try to find email addresses for their defensive coaches, their head coaches, their recruiting coordinators, like whoever I can get in touch with. Put that in a big document, then formulated kind of like a cover letter, right? Like with my put my CV in there and my highlight tape and some of my numbers, some YouTube videos of me playing and of me lifting weights, and probably sent out I think between 400 and like 600 personalized, customized emails with the person's name in it and everything and the school name. And I got like 3 responses, right? And they were all like, "Hey, can you find a way to play in the United States so we can evaluate you here?" And that's kind of what got the ball rolling on me going to a high school in Florida.
Yeah, you ended up in Jacksonville, right? Played
Yeah, yeah,
for the high school there.
yeah. I'm fortunate that my dad's side of the family is from the United States, so
Yeah.
I have relatives in Jacksonville, Florida, and essentially after graduating in Germany, I figured out that in Florida you're allowed to play high school football um, up until the school year that you turn 19 in, right? So I
Okay.
saw that I was still eligible to play high school football in Florida. um, I'd already taken a SAT and an ACT test while in school in Germany. At a just researched it, found a way to take it, ordered some books on Amazon to study for it. Kind of took it on my own time, and then that helped me a lot getting into the high school, right? Because when I showed up there, they were like, "Hey," the coaches, of course, took me for like a little Saturday tryout practice, right? They
Yeah.
saw how big I was, they saw I was moving. They were like, "Hey, we'd love to have you, but we don't know if we can get you into school." And once I showed them my ACT and my SAT score, and they were like, "Hey, these are like if we get you in our school, these are some of our best scores in the school, right?" So then from there on out, man, they took care of the paperwork. They found somebody to translate my grades into American grades, and yeah, I played that fall in for the Reball Trojans in Jacksonville, Florida. It was a good time.
Yeah, I can imagine being a good time from Stuttgart to Jacksonville. Were you ever
Yeah,
been to the United States before? Was it
yeah.
just
So
like okay,
I'd been to Jacksonville like I think 2-3 times before as a
okay,
kid, growing up, just visiting my aunt there and stuff.
yeah,
So there was already a relationship, and I had cousins there that were my same age that actually went to the same high school then as me. So I had some people looking out for me, and yeah, that definitely helped in my
yeah,
transition from Europe to America.
yeah. That would have been my next question for being homesick. But if you had some people around that can, kind of people that that
Yeah.
changes a little bit. But the homesick would have that would have been the case anyway. But
Yeah, I mean,
it's
it's
softens
also
the blow a little bit.
yeah, you just it's just one of those things, you have to make a decision if this is the journey you want to go on. It's not like I see my family a whole lot now, like from that perspective. Like if I'm lucky, I see them maybe like once a year or so. But besides that, it's all about like FaceTime and these type of things. But that's just if you choose to go down that path, if you commit to that path, if you really want to go chase that dream, chase that goal, there's of course sacrifices that you have to make,
Yeah,
and then leaving behind your family and your friends and people you grew up with. It's just part of it. At the same token, it makes it easier later on when you then have to move from high school to college or from college to the pros, or if you're in the pros and you're moving between teams. You've already
yeah.
learned
You're kind
how
of used to
to
it.
how
Yeah,
to how to yeah how to deal with that. And you realize that like the people that you really have a close relationship with, they'll be there. I mean, there's friends that I might not see in 2-3 years, but then when we get back together, it's just like no time has passed at all. So it just kind of sorts out the people are only, that are not really there for you anyway.
Yeah. I can imagine, and the same. Like, it's still a very limited amount of time. Like, it's you can have a 10-year career, and
Yeah,
that's a very long career.
yeah.
But like, that's a very limited amount of time
Limited
in your
time if you
life.
look at your
Yeah.
whole life. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's
So
and that's another thing. You gotta keep in perspective. You only get to do this once, right? You only get to do this during
yeah,
these certain, like, between, say, age 19 to 30 or something like that, right?
something.
And then you still have your whole rest of your life to relax and drink beer with your buddies that you went to high school with, if that's what you want to do. But
Yeah.
at some point you gotta take the leap. You gotta go down that route. You gotta move to the country that you might know nobody in.
Yeah.
But in return, there's a big reward in that
Yeah.
too.
You don't want to look back either and say like, "Oh, I might have
What
missed an
if?
opportunity
Exactly,
there."
exactly, right?
Yeah.
Because then all the friends in the world can't help you get past that feeling. So that's definitely, I encourage everyone to just take the leap. If it works out, it does. If it doesn't, then I'm sure you learn a bunch of things along the way, and
Yeah.
your people will still be there when you get back.
Yeah, I heard that from someone who played, like, a Belgian player, who moved to the US as well,
Yeah,
and it's like, you grew up so incredibly fast, way faster than guys that are your same age.
yeah.
If you go to college in US, not just from that experience, but you have to really learn to be an adult suddenly way
Yeah.
quicker than than anybody else.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
life
I
experience in
mean,
and of itself is worth it. So
that's I 100% agree. In football, you have a little bit of the benefit that in football you live in kind of a bubble, right? Like, we always
yeah,
have, like, these support systems. Like, when you're whether that be in the pros, in college, I would say even more. But you're kind of in that football bubble where, like, at least when it comes to taxes, paperwork, this, that, and the
yeah,
other, you need a car, rent a car. You'll always have people that can help you organize these things. But yeah, definitely, as far as, like, maybe some of your friends that are just going to university back home or something, they're still staying with their parents, it
yeah.
definitely forces you to grow up a little bit quicker.
Yeah, you then moved to college. How did
Yeah,
that was in Tennessee, right? In the
yeah,
Tennessee Volunteers, I think they were called.
yeah. Tennessee
Yeah, yeah,
Tennessee Volunteers, one of the historic big football programs in the South. So they're in the Southeastern Conference, the
yeah,
SEC.
yeah,
That's college football is broken up into all these divisions. The SEC is probably the one where the best football is being played, right? You routinely, like, every year, we play against Alabama, Florida, Georgia, all these schools that you're familiar with. Uh, Probably the most famous person to come out of the University of Tennessee is probably Peyton Manning.
yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely, yeah.
football fans should be familiar with him. And I mean, it was a crazy experience. Every Saturday the home games are sold out. 102, 455. So 102,455 people in a sold out stadium. For a college game,
Yeah,
that's more people than at Barcelona or Bayern
yeah,
Munich,
yeah, yeah,
for university sports. So that was definitely a crazy experience, and you learn a lot. Got to play some football. In total, my time in Tennessee didn't work out as well for me as it could have. I didn't play as much. I got hurt a bunch. And when I was done with college, I moved back to Germany and played for the Stuttgart Scorpions again. But
yeah.
in the long term, things worked out for me when the Pathway program picked me up and I got my chance to come over here.
Yeah, because at the time you moved to Tennessee to play there,
Yeah,
you were still a linebacker. People,
yeah,
we
yeah,
talk about you being a fullback before, but you were a linebacker at that point. I think you were a middle
yeah,
linebacker. How
yeah,
did that switch came about? What made you make that
yeah,
decision, or probably coach made that decision?
yeah.
But
I
how
mean,
did that?
it was pretty much just like a decision I think the coaches made. They looked at the depth chart after my first year. Oh, sorry. So after my first year, I got hurt, and then I was at the bottom of the depth chart when I came back, and the coaches saw that we needed some extra guys in the tight end room. Maybe they wanted to add some like extra toughness because they knew that I was tough. You know, they didn't know how I would translate to that position. So made the move to the tight end. Kind of took me some while. It took me like 2-3 years to get the hang of it. You know, get used to playing offense and stuff. And but yeah, that's how I initially made the switch.
Yeah. Okay. I read a story somewhere. You didn't get back to Germany right away. You had to buy plane tickets. And you had to work.
Yeah. So
there was some really great article that had some really great nuggets in there.
So like yeah, you got to think, man. Like when you're done with your last season of college football, right? You will go one or two routes. Either you go play in the NFL or like the CFL, or you look for a job and you start going to work and you start transitioning into the real world, you know. So for me, I was kind of caught in between because I was in grad school, so I was taking grad school classes.
Yeah.
I graduated in 3 years, so I thought, okay, maybe with this last year I can get a master's done or something. So I was working on a master's, but then in the meanwhile, like you still gotta pay your rent, you gotta pay your bills. So I was just working at like a pizza place on campus, Mellow Mushroom, just as a waiter. And then from then,
I remember that name, Mellow Mushroom. That's a pizzeria place. Like what?
Yeah, it's a pizza spot out here in the States, man. But no, so yeah, and then essentially it was like I went back home for a vacation. That was the first time I was back home in like maybe 2.5 years or so. And at the time, my long-term plan was I wanted to go to med school. I wanted to study to be a surgeon or something. And my family out there, I have a cousin who's a doctor now, and he essentially recommended for me to just come back to Germany and go to school there, try to get into med school in Germany, because all the time I'd spend in the United States would probably count as like waiting time towards finding a place at the university, and it would obviously be way cheaper, right? Going to med school here in the United States is probably like $200,000, you know, compared to Germany where I can go to school for free if you can get a spot at a university. You know, that's more the hard part. Yeah, you got to get that spot, you know. But so I was like, yeah, I'll just take my chances. And finally, at the same time, the Stuttgart Scorpions adult team, a bunch of the guys that I grew up playing with, you know, they're still playing for the Scorpions, and they got wind of the fact that I'm thinking about coming back to Germany, and so they had to talk me into, you know, playing football in Germany, and once they talked me into that, then the team got me some plane tickets for me and my girlfriend to fly to Germany and start playing for the Scorpions that summer. But it was pretty much just kind of like having fun with it again, right? Like I had just come from an experience where my senior year in college, we lost every game in the SEC. Our head coach got fired, right? I finished the year getting injured. You know, so I was really kind of done with football. To then getting a second chance to play with the guys that I grew up playing with, right? Play with my friends and just have fun representing my city that I grew up in. And so I jumped on that opportunity, kind of worked as a waiter throughout that summer. That was an interesting time too, but just got to kind of fall in love with football again and got a second chance to play.
Yeah, I think at that point you're not really thinking about, you know, I'm going to be a fullback in the NFL. That point, you let that dream go a little bit. I think.
Yeah. At that point, man, like I thought I was going to be in Germany. You know, I brought my American girlfriend, right? She's American. I brought her with me because we're going to live in Germany full time, and and then, you know, after that season in the German football league, I got a call from the Pathway program guys. They invited me for a tryout. Do the tryout. It was in London. Did decently, you know, but still I didn't hear back from them for like another like 2.5 months or so. But then finally they called me and they're like, "Hey, we want to have you on this year's Pathway program." So that's how that came about.
Yeah, that has to be an exciting call to get. Like, okay,
it was an email. It was an email actually. Yeah, it was an email actually.
Okay.
Like they told me, yeah, we'll email you guys at some point, like in November. They didn't send the email until like December 13th, right? So it was like 2 days before my birthday. I was actually applying for like spots to become a EMT, right? Because I was going to work as an EMT for a while, maybe get better chances at getting a spot at university. And got the email. They're like, "Hey, man, we'll invite you to train at IMG in Florida this spring." And then I think January 8th, I think we flew to Florida, and that was it.
Yeah, you at that point you're sitting on the plane. What are you thinking? Like, is this at that point? Do you know you're being allocated to the Patriots? No, that's probably not.
So they you don't know. You don't even know which teams are potential spots for guys to get allocated, but you also don't know if you're going to be one of the people that gets allocated, right? Because I mean, that year I think it was 6 or 7 of us were in the program, and then four guys get allocated, right? So it's, some guys are always going to obviously be disappointed or whatnot, but yeah, for me it was just like just a second chance, and then just really taking everything that I learned from my first trip to the United States, right? All the mistakes I made along the way, and just kind of taking the lessons from those mistakes, and giving it one more shot, and definitely I think that was important for me. That's why I can't really say that I have any regrets, because at the end of the day, everything happened the way that it had to happen, right? I had to make certain experiences, I had to make certain mistakes to learn these lessons and to then be prepared when my opportunity came.
Yeah, it's always more fun if a story is not smooth.
Like right.
It adds like a little bit depth to just the.
It wasn't. It might have not been as much fun in the moment when you go through it. But then when you get to the other side, man, then it makes it that much better. That's true.
Yeah, that's true. I can imagine. Like the international pathway or player pathway program. How important is that? It obviously like launched your career like a second time. Like, how is that? Is that like a sort of a brotherhood now because you had to train with these 100%. Guys, or is that? Yeah,
100%. I mean, all the guys that, I mean, I'm still in touch with all the guys that I was in the program with, right? But then even just the guys that came before you, the guys that come after you, we definitely try to always leave the program in a better place than what we find it. And everybody that came through the program, we're a reflection of the program, right? So the way that we carry ourselves when we get to these teams, the things we can accomplish with those teams, in effect, they'll reflect back on the program, and they will determine how much more opportunity is going to be given to other international players, right? So that's definitely something that we all take very serious, and that was one of the big key things that the program always hit on and try to instill in you as a player going through the program. We're here to build that bridge. We're a pathway right now, but we want to widen the path, right? We want to make the path bigger. We want to make it a street. We want to make it a highway. So to get to that point, what we do matters, and how we carry yourself matters, and
it's responsibility.
It's just part of being a international player in the league.
Yeah, do you get a lot of messages now from like young players from different countries trying to be like, oh, I want to be in that program as well? Did people contact you?
Oh yeah, 100%, right? And kind of my first 2 years, I would say there was not as much known about the program, so people would obviously come to me to ask, etc. But I think the NFL has done a much better job explaining what the program is, how you can get recognized for the program, where the tryout is being held, right, or how you can qualify, how you can catch the eye of the coaches. So I gotta say the questions actually decreased, as the visibility of the overall program has increased, right? And then at the same token, the guys are seeing, hey, if I go to the ELF and I ball out, right, I can get recognized, because you see guys now from the ELF make their way through the program. So I think it's becoming more clearer to guys how to get recognized and what they can do. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's mostly now advice that people might ask you. Like,
Yeah.
you might have an opportunity now for people that, Belgian, Dutch,
Yeah.
Young players that are listening to this show. Do you have any advice for them? Like, what can I do
Yeah.
to
100%. I mean, for me, the main thing is always this, right? If you decide to set a goal for yourself, right? If you have a long-term goal, you say you want to play college football, you say you want to play in the NFL, right? Whatever it is that your specific goal is, don't leave nothing up to chance, right? Do your research, figure out what the pathways are for you to get to your goal, right? If you want to play college, then you can either get recognized directly in Europe, which that's probably the smallest chance, or you can see if you can go to a prep school or a junior college if you can afford that, or you can see if you can do a year at a high school, or if you have some relatives in the States, if you can afford that, or you can do something like going to, like, all these colleges have summer camps, for scouting purposes, where they scout younger players. You can maybe line up a couple colleges that are close to each other, right? See when their camps are, do your research, and then plan a trip around that, right? That's probably your most cost-effective way of doing it, right? Or you can, I know there's companies now that offer those kind of recruiting services too, Gridiron Imports, PPI, right?
Yeah.
I personally don't have any experiences with that, so I don't know how much money you would need to go that route, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I know that's essentially what they do. They take you, they bring you to those colleges, they bring you to those camps, they get you in front of these coaches. And then, if you can't do that, then how about win your niche, right? Be the best player on your team, be the best player, be one of the best players in your country, and see if you can get some recognition that way, right? Reach out to these schools, send your highlight tape to coaches. Like, don't leave nothing up to chance, right? The worst thing you can do is to just sit around and dream your dream, right? If you want to accomplish it, you have to dream your dream, but turn that into action, right? Action. That's what it's all about. If you have a certain part of your game that you're not happy with, if you're a wide receiver and you feel like you're not fast enough, just sitting there and feeling bad for yourself, right? And wishing that you were faster is not going to accomplish anything. Versus if you go out and you do some speed work, you pull some sleds, you squat, you get stronger. That's action. That's doing positive action to address whatever it is that you want to do. And that's what I encourage every young player to do, right? The sooner you can start, the better. The more you can do, the better. And then you'd be surprised where that takes you. You might not even be able to envision right now where you can end up if you start taking action and make a plan of attack and then get after it.
Yeah, because I don't think you knew what was going to happen when you made that, email list and everything. You didn't know what was going to come of it either. So
yeah, that's the same thing. Like I had this idea, right? Just like a general idea of playing college football, and I did my research. I made a plan, right? And I executed on that plan, right? One thing didn't work, I went on to the next, right? I sent all those emails, and I got 3 replies. And they basically said, hey, well, we can't help you, right? But you can't let that deter you. That's one door closes. Okay, what else can I do, right? What's my next option? What's my next step? What else can I do? Reaching out to guys. And I think now with the internet and with the total amount of international guys that are at colleges already, that are about to make the jump from colleges to the pros and that are in the pros, it'll get easier and easier for each generation that comes after us of young players. But you still have to press, right? You still have to want it. You still have to do things. You have to go to these coaches. You have to go to these training camps. You have to attack it, and kind of put your dreams into action if you want to get there.
Yeah, this I remember like an interview I did a couple of years ago with a guy, and he told me like a pro athlete will hear 1,000 no's and 1 yes, and he will think about that 1 yes the entire time. It's just the way your brains work, I think. Like in that sense.
Listen, I mean that's another thing, man. I was never like the most like most teams I was on. I was never the most impressive player, right? But I just kept working at it, right? Whereas other guys might have, been happy with being the best player in this team in Germany, right? I was like, I had my sights set on more, and I made a plan to attack that. compared to just being content where I was at.
Yeah, it's a great segue to what I was going to ask you next about the program. Is you ended up with the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
First of all, is that's a call or that's someone telling you that has to be your great news, because that's not just any team. That's right on the middle of that's like the New England Patriots, especially at that point. How did that end up happening?
Oh man, it was they let you know that you're allocated, but they don't know who you're allocated to. So we were just back in Germany waiting for the call, and then got the call from the team. I had my family around. It was an exciting time, and you don't really know what to expect, just like any other rookie when you get that call. But then once you get the team, you just got to get to work,
Yeah, that's like, okay, I gotta sit in like a dressing room with a guy like Tom Brady. Like, okay, let's just do this. Like, I'm in Stuttgart right now, but things are changing a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it takes some time to get adapted to that, and that's like the mental side, I would say, of sports and all that stuff, is that you got to get past that. These might have been people that you looked up to when you was growing up and all these things, but now you're here as part of a team. I'm saying you're on the same team as them, and you're here there for a reason too. And so that's once that switch clicks, then you can just really go to work.
Do you remember like the first time you met Tom Brady, the first time you met Bill Belichik? Like, do you remember those times? Like, is that something that's kept in your brain, or is it?
I don't know if I remember the first times that I met them, because that's another thing. It's like there's really no time for you to
can imagine,
sit in that. Like I'm sure in the moment that was probably a little bit of a moment for me. But then you have so many of these moments, and things move so fast that on top of that you have bigger things to worry about, right? You got to learn the playbook. You got to find a way to get on the field. You got to find a way to contribute to the team. So all these other things just kind of become more and more irrelevant to you, I think, as time passes.
Yeah, I can imagine. And the first camp you didn't make the team, but you got on the practice squad, I think, right?
Yeah.
Did I get that right? Yeah.
Yeah. So as a pathway player, the team can put you on the exemption list, right? Which is essentially like an extra practice squad slot for international players that they can do. The only negative from that is that at the time that meant that you could not be activated for the rest of the season, right?
Oh, okay.
I think that has changed, I want to say, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, the big step for me was that instead of putting me on that exemption list spot, the team decided to keep me on the regular practice squad, which then when my predecessor at fullback ended up getting injured, James Devlin, Pro Bowl fullback, great guy.
Yeah.
When he went down, I got an opportunity to play, and that's what gave me my start.
Yeah, that's the next man up mentality that the NFL talks about all the time, and I think and the Patriots have a great way of putting that to use every single year. Like, does a guy like James Devlin, who is, like you said, a Pro Bowler before, does he like keep you on your wing, under his wing a little bit, or is that like?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, he taught me everything I knew up until that point about playing fullback. Just working with him throughout training camp and stuff. Like he would always almost be like a player coach to me and the other young fullback at the time. And yeah, I definitely appreciate him for the time that he spent just kind of teaching us the position, teaching us the playbook and everything. Because you need that, that the transition to the league can be tough. So if you have like a vet that kind of helps you, it definitely helps.
You were part of that IPP program going into that camp. Do people ask questions about you being from Germany? I can't even imagine a lot of guys don't even know you're from Germany because you're called Jakob Johnson.
Yeah. So it's kind of a mix of both. Like once guys find out that you're like an international guy, they definitely have questions and stuff. And there's a lot of surprise, on some guys' part because they just don't expect it, right? I think it hasn't been talked about a lot here in the United States. Like they just kind of are focused on the day-to-day business of the NFL. But I think now, especially this year, with a game in Germany, a game in Mexico, the games in London, I think people are starting to wake up that there's something happening and that the NFL is kind of expanding internationally. And then in return, I'll tell all my teammates about the team that I'm a franchise owner of. You know what I mean? I'm a franchise owner of a team in the ELF. I always joke with them. It's like, hey, if you guys ever need a job, hit me up. We're always looking for players. So it definitely has changed, and I think people are starting to wake up to the fact that there's something happening with football internationally.
Yeah. Your time in New England, how do you look back on that? There were some really great moments. You scored a touchdown. Obviously, that has to be one of the great moments for you. Was against the Seahawks, I think. In week 2 of 2020 season. That was you received or there was a receiving touchdown. You don't really usually you're mostly on passless. You don't really get the ball a lot. How did that situation come about? Like, was that something that was installed before, or?
Yeah, it's just one of these things that, like, it was a play that was just kind of like in the game plan. So, of course, as a player, you're aware of it. And then when the situation came, we were at the goal line. I was kind of expecting that play call to come. And then obviously Cam threw me a great ball. I caught it, and that was a great moment. But yeah, just kind of in general, I mean, it was obviously the past 3 years, it was some cool moments personally, but at the end of the day, what counts in the NFL is wins, wins and losses. At the end of the day, there's only one winner. And, until you're that one winner, I think, you'll keep chasing it. So,
There was a couple of interesting years, I think, in New England last, like 2 or 3 years. There was, a lot of changes, I think, but it has to be interesting to be part of that, time slot of moving from, like, I'm not saying the dynasty is over, but like, things changed between 2019 and 2000, what we are now in 2020. So is that something?
I think it was an interesting time in the NFL in general, because you got to think, man, I played through the Corona season. A lot of interesting stuff than last year, the first year, kind of having fans back in the stadiums, but still having all kinds of like restrictions when it comes to practice and wearing masks and like it was definitely an interesting time, man. I'm definitely looking forward to having a normal, right? A normal full NFL season this year, and get to see that.
Yeah, the full experience finally of being part of the whole thing. Because in 2019, you I think you only played 4 games and you were injured. So I think the most time that you played in the league was in that whole Corona situation. And I think about it,
wearing masks. Wearing masks on flights after away games is definitely not the most fun. It's not the most fun thing in the world.
Especially if you've lost. That
can only make it worse.
But at one point now, one of the things that I read about you being there was Bill Belichik calling you one of the top 5 players he's worked with in terms of year-to-year development. You talked about working hard and always being like one of the guys that who wants to take a step forward. That has to be like one of the greatest quotes ever about you that you've been involved somewhere.
I mean, it's of course, appreciate Coach Belichik for everything that he's done for me, just giving me the opportunity and everything. And that was, of course, a great compliment, but then when you get a compliment like that, that just kind of puts you in the responsibility of really making that count, so that's appreciate that, of course, but I gotta stick to that now. I gotta make that work.
You can't lean back after that one.
Yeah, exactly. You can't put your feet up.
With him, he's not the type of guy that will appreciate you leading back after a coach. Like, how is he as a person? I don't know how much a guy like that personally as a head coach, but like in front of the scenes, let me call it that way, I think he has a different personality, if I can call it that way, than he is behind the scenes. I think he's a little bit more, soft. Let me put it that way. Maybe behind
That's
the
your
scenes,
words.
or is it what?
Yeah, no. I think obviously, as fans of football, you guys only see
Yeah,
coaches in the press conferences and their interactions with the media. But obviously, to like just like with us as players, there's always like a different side to it. And then there are of course like things team internally like that can't be shared with the media,
yeah, no,
so that it's always a little bit different interacting with a coach, as your coach versus how the coach has to talk to you guys, because there's obviously a lot of things that go into that. But yeah, man, I have nothing but the greatest respect and appreciation for Coach Belichik, man, and for what he has done not only for me but for Sebastian Vollmer, which is another German guy, and
yeah.
so I think he's definitely one of those guys that doesn't care where the player is coming from, as long as you're doing your job. So I
Yeah, do
appreciate
your
that.
job. That's somewhere on that big wall. I think do your job. Um, there was a great moment. I think it was a YouTube clip as well of you getting an award ball, or I
Hmm.
don't know how to call it anyway. Other than
Yeah.
that, from Patriots owner Bob Kraft.
Yeah.
Do you still have that
Oh yeah, hundred
ball
percent,
somewhere? Is that like
100%. Yeah, yeah. I keep everything. I have jerseys, balls, gloves, cleats. I keep everything.
yeah, you keep it to have it like in a box, or is it really out somewhere? You have like a
Oh
room.
no, I have a small apartment, man. So I have everything in boxes right now. But at
Yeah.
some point, when I decide to finally have a bigger place or something, like have something more permanent, I definitely plan on putting all that stuff up. Have my kind of like museum or something in the basement.
Yeah, that's really cool. There was like a picture of I don't know who it was, like an NFL player as well, who like swaps jerseys for like I don't know a
Yeah,
living almost. Like, if you see his basement, it's like full of like all these
full of
different jerseys.
jerseys. Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That
yeah.
has to be really cool. Like,
I'm not too big on the jersey swaps because what you guys don't know is that we have to actually pay for those jerseys, right? Every
yeah,
time
I
you
heard something about
swap a
that.
jersey,
Yeah,
it's like $300. So I'm German. I'm from South Germany. We're known to be like kind of frugal, stingy kind of people. So I'm not too big of a fan of the jersey swaps. But yeah, everything else I'll try to keep for sure.
yeah. Talking about Stuttgart, you are now part of the ELF as well,
Yeah.
co-owner of Stuttgart Surge. Is that something they ask you to be part of, or you decided to reach out to them?
Oh, it was just natural for me, just trying to support the sport in my city, and because I look at the ELF as just the next step for football in Europe, in Europe in general. So when I saw that there was going to be a franchise in my city, I of course like reached out to the guys and stuff and looked for ways to get involved.
Yeah, how is that league now? They had their first year in 2021.
Yeah,
DLF did. Um, it's starting in June, I think.
yeah.
How are you involved in like day-to-day things? I can't imagine
Yeah.
you don't have time for that, but like, how are you involved in it?
I mean, thankfully, as an owner, you don't really have to do too
Yeah.
much, but pay bills, right? so, like
The
in the
real
day
fun
to
part,
day,
right?
yeah, right. In the day to day, my involvement is just how it just depends on whatever the team needs, right? If, if the coaches reach out to me with something, I help them out. If the GM reaches out to me with something, I'll help out where I can. And then, of course, me knowing and having a personal relationship with most of the players on the team, right? Of course helps because they can just speak to me about things that are going on in the team where I might be able to help out. So I just try to kind of keep an overview, stay above the stuff, and help out where I can to try to make this project successful.
Yeah. This league already have like a lot of media attention. Like it's getting better and better. I think the way they work on the sport, like from a media
Yeah,
standpoint, is pretty like professional. I think it's a semi-pro league
yeah.
in terms of the players, but is getting like more and more recognition, I think, as well.
So
So
so I think it's probably fair to call it a semi-pro league when it comes to the salaries right now, right? Because guys are not getting paid as much. But for football in Europe, it's already a big step to have full rosters of guys getting paid, right? Because for a long time, the only guys that were getting paid were like the American import players, right? But with the TV deals, with all the stuff that the league is doing to promote itself, right? With all the content they're producing, right? They're finally giving football a fair shot. Whereas before you had all these kind of small local leagues, every league doing their own thing. Nobody really knows where to watch the games, how to get the highlights, what's going on. I think the ELF has done an excellent job at just being like, hey, look, here's a Game Pass. You can watch it on TV. Like in Germany, it's on TV, right? You can watch the games. You know what I mean? All the teams have jerseys and equipment that's up to a standard that I don't think was as high before in Europe. And it gives fans a chance to really see what's going on, share the content on social media, the Instagram highlights. That was a way that I actually, kept an eye on some of the guys that I knew around the league, like Kasim at Abali and the guys down in Frankfurt at the Frankfurt Galaxy. I think they're doing an excellent job. So, I'm excited to see what this year is going to look like for the league, with Corona restrictions finally being gone and them being able to really fill up the stadiums. And I think the sky's the limit for the league.
Yeah, I think Germany has been that, like, if you talk about like a hotspot for American football, that's always been like, Germany has always been like in the forefront of American football in Europe, and especially now that's only gonna get bigger with the international games going to Germany as well. For you, obviously being a German player, it has to be like really great to see the NFL moving to Munich as well this year.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is definitely more than I could have ever, expected. None of us, all of us, always had the dream of, making it to the NFL. Nobody ever thought that the NFL would come to us, So I think it's a huge step. It'll lead to the sport being more tangible, right? I think it'll get more kids involved, because you have to really see it and feel it to kind of understand the excitement around the sport. And so I'm really excited that the NFL is bringing these games over and making such a huge commitment to Germany and to those international markets.
Yeah, because it's like one of the biggest stadiums as well in the entire Europe. So it's going to be like a big thing in Europe. There's going to be talks about it anyway. Like the international games now in London, always felt like it flew a little bit under the radar. Sometimes I had the feeling.
Yeah.
So I'm interested
no
to see how
no offense to the British, but they need to stick to soccer, all right? You know what I mean? The British are like like everybody in Europe that was involved in football in Europe knows that German American football, was some of the best football that's being played all around Europe, and German fans are just very dedicated. There's a guy, I signed some guy's forearm and he got my signature tattooed right at this kids camp that I was in Germany. Like, German fans are very passionate, almost crazy, and I think the NFL won't regret coming over and getting more guys involved in the sport.
Yeah, do you feel like the NFL can do a little bit more, or are there certain things where you go, well, maybe they can do this, maybe they can do that to even improve that international? Because we talk about Europe, but I think it's international. But like, do you see things that they can improve?
Yeah, I think the main two things I see is like the more they can invest in like youth sports in Germany, right? Getting kids involved in flag football and youth football, that will pay off huge for them, right? Because that's the future. Those are the guys that are going to want to buy the jerseys, right? That are want to come to the games and consume all that content that's getting put out on social media. So I think that would be the first step. And then secondly, I think just as a whole football community, I think it would help us out if, like maybe flag football, 7-on-7 football could become like an Olympic sport, right? Because in Europe, a lot of funding for sports and youth sports is connected to the Olympic committees, right? One reason why we as football players in Germany never could go to physical therapy or train at certain spots in Germany is because our sport didn't have an Olympic committee, right? So I think the more the NFL can do to kind of further that agenda, I think it will help make the sport more popular all around the world, and give people an easy access point to join the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a wonderful way to get every step forward, and that's what we try to do here with the AFCB. What we call it AFCB, but it's American Football Community, and always put the emphasis on that part of what we do. Like we have a website, we have this podcast that we do, but that's like always what I always like emphasize on that part of, like, we need, it's such a small sport, so we need the full community to be part of this
that's
whole
what it
thing,
is,
because
man.
yeah.
That's what it's all about. I mean, that's what grew it in Germany, right? In Germany, everything started taking off once the they call it the football bromance community over there, right? But it's the same thing as the community you're trying to build here. So I think the more the community can do to just kind of come together, find these spaces like this podcast and those platforms to kind of unite and show up as a group, right, for football. I think the bigger the reward will be.
Yeah, we had a meetup in Ghent with fans from like this whole community. And you could see still people watching like a Sunday night football game, and you can still see people in like the sports bar like looking like, who are these people? Like,
what's going on over there?
So we want to change that people like, okay, those are the football guys. Like we know who these guys are.
I gotta come to Ghent sometime, watch some football with you guys.
Yeah. You have my WhatsApp now, so anytime you can sleep here. You don't even need a hotel.
All right, perfect. Hey, I'll take you up on that.
Yeah. Very well. Because I have to, I thanked you before we started, and even when we started. But I have to thank you again. I'm not going to take up any more, longer time that you do. But like, it's great that you wanted to do this. Like I've always said, like, I want to interview players on the podcast. Never really thought about an NFL player, but I did exactly what you did. Like,
there you go.
Aim big and see where it lands. Because I even remember you scoring the touchdown and saying in the Dynasty fantasy group that we have, like, I want to interview that guy. People being like,
man,
what the hell? Well, we're sitting here, so it's fun that we're able to do it. And so I have to thank you. Not going to take up
no worries, time, like I said. No worries, man. Thanks for having me, and shout out to the community in Belgium. And hopefully, I can get out there and come visit you guys sometime.
Yeah. You're always welcome. And
all right,
we'll see you. Okay.
Yes, sir. Peace.
Peace.